All right, hello everybody and welcome back. Hope you can hear me okay and see the screen all right. We're here on a quick update here for Bitcoin. And we're going to work our way from the weekly down to the daily. This will be critical to pay attention till the end because today is the rate cut decision, whether that will happen or not, okay? That will highly impact the markets and the future of where Bitcoin is going. Let's go ahead and start on a weekly. When we look at Bitcoin here, we can see that we have a possible 5-wave structure to the upside, right? We have a wave 1 into 2, a 3 into 4, and trying to work on wave 5, or wave 5 is already completed. Excuse me for the sniffles and coughs if I have them today. I've been sick for a little bit. When we pull an extension, or a trend-based fib extension, let me delete these so you can see. To try to predict a wave 5, we pull from a 0 to a 3 to a 4. And we typically talk about the minimum target being the 0.618 extension, right? At 128,000. You can see that we fell short there. That's why the thumbnail of this video is 130K, or is the top in. I do believe Bitcoin's top is not in. I do believe we're still going to get a run to that 128, 130K region. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the daily here and see what's going on. But before we do, look at the weekly regular bear divergence. By that I mean a higher closure on price action candles, but a lower closure on the RSI. We've yet to hit that resistance the third time. I'm expecting when Bitcoin does, you'll get your third bear div or slightly come through the resistance and lose it on the back test. Let's go ahead and switch over to a daily really quick. All right, get rid of the RSI here. When we look at this daily chart to the upside, we can see that we have a wave 1, an expanded flat in 2, a nice ascent here in wave 3, a long grind of a correction into a wave 4, and now working its way up the stairs again. If we do the same concept again to measure for where a wave 5 would go for Bitcoin, from 0 to the highs of 3 to the lows of 4, we can see that 122K is still our minimum target, right? So the last thing we saw was 128 on the weekly. We're seeing 122,634 here on the daily. So I would say with so many minimum targets not being met to the upside and Bitcoin back testing the 0.382 extension as support, if Bitcoin can stay itself above 100K, I do think that we're going to continue the move to the upside to finish this rally. Now let's go ahead over to the 4-hour and talk about the scenarios on Bitcoin that we could be looking at, okay? I want to show you where this yellow channel comes from really soon so you could put it on your chart. It is hypercritical and really useful. So we put a base channel on this move from 0 to 2 to the highs of 1. And we put a secondary channel known as the acceleration channel from the lows of 2 to the lows of 4 to the highs of 3. These things will help us predict the move of what is coming or what could come. So you'll notice the gold channel had lots of respect at the center line and again along the top. So let's zoom in here and talk about, what we think might be going on here with Bitcoin. All right, so in the scenario where the top is not in for Bitcoin, we can see a really complex move here to the downside within A of a possible W, X into Y, okay? When we measure from 0 to W to X, we note flat bottom candle respect at the 0.618, meaning that this could likely be a Y leg. It did finish in a 3-wave motion, right? If it is to be a WXY and A, and we're marching up the stairs, when we check the time and correction from the top of the 0 to the low of the A, we notice that the possible 3-wave motion following it is in before the 382 time fib, right? When that happens and you're in before the trend-based fib time of 0.382 for the correction, it's likely this isn't the high, right? So even in a corrective scenario, you could see how this could result in another high. You could have 3 to the upside, 3 to the downside in X, and now making an A, a B, and a flat, and moving up in a C for the Y leg, which could come up to estimated from here, as long as the lows stay the way they are, 113,000. Now, another scenario is that instead of making a flat here, you could also go ahead and make a triangle in the Y leg of the WXY and not come up as high as you want. Maybe just get up near this 110 level, 109 again. But for now, let's stay biased on the road that's ahead, and that it's a possible correction without the top being in due to the things that we looked at, okay? Now, let's delete this so we can have a little peek here. Let's say the scenario is slightly different, right? Instead of a WXY and A, you have a possible A wave and 5 waves to the downside that was a diagonal. If that happens, what would be more worrisome for Bitcoin would be if somehow your low is in, or your high is in here for the B wave and your high is in for the cycle. If that occurs, let's delete some of this stuff so we can see it. You would be looking for a very strong move to the downside, which would result in this being invalidation and rejection, right? It would continue onward to the downside in a C wave. And you say, how could we find those targets or supports, right? If we wanted to find those supports, we need to go from a trend-based fib extension click from the high to the low of the A to the high of the B, okay? You do not want to see this lose 95K. If it is to come down hard and steep and fast, losing 95K would signify that it's no longer a correction, and it's likely an impulse because it breaks the 1.382 corrective extension. Okay, that'd be the most bearish thing that I think we could see today. But again, I think that the whipsaw of action that Jerome Powell and the rate cuts or no rate cut at all could bring Bitcoin for one more high to the upside. Okay. And I think it's to that confluent 128K, 122, maybe with some FOMO to push it up to 130K. But for now, I don't think the top's in. I'm going to stay sided with that. This morning, we had unemployment claims come in, and they came in under forecast, okay? Usually, the Fed is not going to do rate cuts on an economy that doesn't need it, right? So if 99% of the people are saying, no rate cut, no change, it's likely there won't be one. When unemployment is high, it signals a weak economy. The Fed may need to cut rates to stimulate that economy and increase activity and growth in the economy. In 2008 and during COVID, the Fed dropped the rate to combat economic fallout and high unemployment. Currently, we do not have high unemployment. The Fed has no reason to mess with the rates currently and likely will put this off until the next session. I hope you all found this video useful, and I will see you next time. Have a good day.